There is an old story about a young man who wanted to do many things with his life. He wanted to become wise. He wanted to become successful. He wanted to learn new skills. He wanted to build something meaningful. He wanted to be respected by others. But there was one problem. Every day, his attention moved in a different direction. In the morning, he wanted to become a craftsman. By noon, he wanted to become a merchant. In the evening, he wanted to become a scholar. The next day, he changed his mind again. He started many things, but he finished almost nothing. He would begin a task with excitement. Then, as soon as it became difficult, another idea would appear. This new idea always looked easier, more exciting, more promising. So he left the first task unfinished and ran toward the next one. For a while he told himself he was ambitious. He told himself that he had many talents. He told himself that he was only searching for the right path. But as the years passed, he began to feel tired. Other people in the village were not always more gifted than him, but they were becoming better at something. One man became a skilled carpenter. Another became a respected farmer. Another became a good teacher. They had chosen one path and walked it long enough to grow. The young man, however, was still standing at the beginning of many roads. One evening, he sat outside his house, surrounded by unfinished tools, open books, half-written notes, and forgotten plans. He looked at everything he had started. And for the first time, he understood something painful. He was not failing because he had no ability. He was failing because his energy had no direction. The next morning, he went to see a wise old man who lived near the edge of the village. The old man was sitting beneath an olive tree, sharpening a small knife. "Master," the young man said, "I want to succeed, but my mind is always scattered." The wise man looked at him calmly. "Then your problem is not weakness," he said. "It is division." The young man frowned. "What do you mean?" The old man placed the knife down. "A divided mind can work all day and still go nowhere." Then he stood up and said, "Come with me, I will show you why." The wise man led the young man to a small field behind his house. On a wooden table, there was a bowl filled with seeds. The old man handed the bowl to the young man. "Throw them," he said. The young man took a handful of seeds and threw them into the air. The seeds scattered everywhere. Some fell on the path. Some fell among stones. Some fell near dry ground. Some disappeared into the grass. The wise man asked, "What will happen to these seeds?" The young man looked around. "Some may grow," he said, "but many will be lost." The old man nodded. "Why?" "Because they were scattered." The wise man took another handful of seeds. This time, he dug a small hole in the soil, placed the seeds carefully inside, covered them, and watered the ground. Then he said, "Energy is like a seed. If you throw it everywhere, it rarely becomes anything strong. But when you place it in one direction and protect it, it begins to grow roots." The young man looked at the field. The old man continued, "You have been throwing your attention everywhere and wondering why nothing grows." The young man lowered his eyes. The truth was simple, but it hurt. He thought about all the books he had started, all the plans he had abandoned, all the promises he had made to himself and forgotten. He had blamed time. He had blamed opportunity. He had blamed the world. But perhaps he had never protected one seed long enough. The wise man said, "Focus does not mean you have no other dreams. It means you choose which dream receives your life today." The young man listened carefully. The old man continued, "Many people lose years because they confuse movement with progress. They are always busy, but never rooted." The young man whispered, "I have been busy for a long time." "Yes," said the wise man, "but busy water that flows everywhere does not cut through stone. A river becomes powerful because it follows one path." They stood in silence for a moment. Then the wise man pointed to the planted seeds. "If you return tomorrow and dig them up to see if they are growing, what will happen?" "They may die," said the young man. The old man nodded. "This is what impatience does to focus. Every time you abandon the work too soon, you destroy the roots before they become visible." The young man looked at the soil. For the first time, he understood that focus was not only about choosing, it was also about staying. Later that day, the wise man took the young man to a quiet, open field. There, an old wooden target stood near a tree. Beside it was a bow and a few arrows. The wise man handed the bow to the young man. "Shoot," he said. The young man lifted the bow. But just as he was about to aim, the wise man placed 2 more targets in the field. Then another. Then another. Soon there were 5 targets in different places. The young man looked confused. "Which one should I aim at?" he asked. The wise man smiled. "All of them." The young man tried. His eyes moved from one target to another. His hands became tense. He released the arrow. It missed everything. The old man gave him another arrow. Again, the young man tried to think about all the targets at once. Again, he missed. The wise man asked, "What is the problem?" "There are too many targets," said the young man. The old man nodded. "Exactly." Then he removed every target except one. "Now shoot!" The young man breathed slowly. He looked at one target, only one. His hands became calmer. His eyes stopped moving. He pulled the string and released the arrow. This time it struck the edge of the target. Not perfectly, but it landed. The wise man said, "A man who tries to aim at everything gives his strength to nothing." The young man looked at the arrow. The lesson was clear. The old man continued, "Your attention is your arrow. Your goal is your target. If your attention keeps moving, your life keeps missing." The young man was silent. The wise man said, "Every distraction asks for a small piece of you. One piece does not seem dangerous, but 1,000 small pieces can take the whole man." The young man thought about his days. A little time lost here, a little energy lost there, a little attention given to every noise, every desire, every fear, every comparison. No single distraction had destroyed him, but together they had stolen his direction. The wise man placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not ask yourself only what you want. Ask yourself what deserves your focus." The young man repeated the words quietly. "What deserves my focus?" The question felt different. It was not about excitement. It was about importance. And for the first time, the young man understood that focus was not about doing more. It was about removing what did not serve the path. In the weeks that followed, the young man began to change. Not dramatically, not overnight, but slowly. Each morning, he chose one important task before touching anything else. When new ideas came, he wrote them down, but he did not chase them immediately. When distractions called him, he learned to pause. When the work became boring, he stayed a little longer. When the path became difficult, he reminded himself, roots grow in silence. At first, focus felt uncomfortable. His mind wanted to escape. It wanted novelty. It wanted quick results. It wanted the pleasure of starting again. But the young man began to see the pattern. Starting gave him excitement. Staying gave him strength. Day after day, one unfinished thing became finished. Then another. Then another. His confidence grew, not because life became easier, but because his actions became clearer. Months later, he returned to the wise man. The old man was again sitting beneath the olive tree. The young man bowed and said, "Master, I thought focus would make my life smaller. The wise man looked at him. "And did it?" "No," said the young man. "It made my life deeper." The old man smiled. "That is because focus is not a cage. It is a direction." The young man looked toward the field where the seeds had been planted. Small green leaves had begun to rise from the soil. The wise man said, "Remember this. A scattered life may feel full, but a focused life becomes fruitful." The young man listened. The old man continued, "You do not need to follow every thought. You do not need to answer every noise. You do not need to become everything at once." The young man felt peaceful. For the first time, he no longer wanted 10 different roads. He wanted one road that mattered. And perhaps this is the lesson hidden inside the story. Focus is not about having fewer dreams. It is about giving your best energy to the dream that deserves you most. Do not confuse distraction with opportunity. Do not confuse movement with progress. Do not confuse starting with growing. Choose your seed. Choose your target. Choose your path. Then protect it. Because the life you want will not be built by the energy you scatter. It will be built by the attention you learn to keep. If this story gave you something to think about, subscribe to Wisdomary Tales for more stories that make you think.